Well, it's 11 days until the you-know-what, and you know who is here to talk about it.
Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Ryan O'Neill.
Not to be lacking in specifics here.
Who?
So we have Harvard University political science professor emeritus Dr. Robert A. Heineman with us today to talk about the upcoming election and many other things.
Okay, I'm ready to talk. Let's talk, Brian.
Okay.
Yes?
The big news this week, as you know, is the explosive devices being sent out to prominent Democrats.
Yeah, that's really strange. I just have no idea what's going on there. I hope Trump will be responsible. I guess he already has made it plain that this is really a very nasty sort of thing, and certainly has come out against any kind of action, any kind of violence. On the other hand, at the same time, you got this column of Hondurans, I guess, coming up through Mexico.
So much is happening before this election.
The thing is, the point I'm trying to make is these so-called explosive devices do, I think, tend to try to draw the attraction and attention away from this huge caravan of potential immigrants, whom I think Trump is ready to deal with in a pretty definitive fashion. He's got Mattis has already been called up to bring the army in, and I think they'll stop him. And I think in that sense, that all moves towards supporting Trump and his positions on a wall and this sort of thing. And so I think, frankly, whatever the intent was behind this caravan of immigrants, men, women, children, whatever, it probably redounds to Trump's benefit. And obviously these so-called explosive devices distract from that. And I'm not saying that this was done to do that. It could well be some total nutcase out there. But the whole thing is a little strange because, as far as I can tell, these devices really are quite crude, and I'm not certain if they'd really even explode without some real effort. So it's just strange, and I think most people, frankly, are going to kind of push that off to the side and let the FBI.
Yes, that's the big question. How will it affect the election?
I don't see how it would unless somebody tries to claim that Republicans are trying to send bombs to. And nobody's going to, in their right mind, is going to make that claim. But the problem is, of course, on the other side as well, you've got all these confrontations in the streets. You've got people driving Republicans away from their dinners and lunches out of restaurants. So you got a lot of violent, or certainly potentially violent, encounters from the left, aimed at prominent conservatives and Republicans. So again, this may well kind of detract from that. I don't think it will, because these guys on the left are really into the confrontational politics and street movements and things of that sort. So, and I don't think it's doing them any good. Now, as for the election itself, in terms of where the outcome is headed, I think we can agree that the so-called talk about a so-called blue wave is certainly tamping down pretty dramatically here in the last few days. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that the Democrats have sort of stalemated, sort of stagnated, maybe that's not the right word, whereas you are seeing some real movement on the part of Republicans. Now, whether that's enough in these cases to take control of the House still remains to be seen. But the Senate, it looks like the Republicans are going to do really quite well in the Senate races. And I would say, in terms of our audience, there are a couple of Senate races to watch which are not getting a heck of a lot of attention right now. And the one in Florida especially, where Senator Nelson, a Democrat, is running for his fourth term, is opposed by, I don't know if he's the governor, but certainly the former, I think he is the governor, Scott of Florida, who is getting quite a bit of credit for having been really a pretty effective Republican governor. And so Scott he may actually be ahead of Nelson a little bit right down there. So that's one that doesn't get much attention, but would be obviously a flip. The other one I think that's quite interesting is the one in New Jersey, where the incumbent Democrat Menendez was prosecuted for for corruption of some sort earlier this year. And the jury, it was a hung jury, and so the feds then finally decided not to continue prosecution of him. But here he's running, and that carries a real stench of corruption about him. And the Republican is within, I think, 5 percentage points of him by some polls. But what's interesting about that race is that Republican supporters of the Republican candidate, 40% of them are really enthusiastic about supporting the Republican. And in the Democrat side, about the poll I saw had only about 19% of the Democrats at all enthusiastic about voting for Menendez. So it's possible you'll get a lot of Democrats that just don't vote. So that race could be pretty interesting.
Do you follow the Jeff Flake seat there between McNally and Kristen Sinema, Martha McNally?
Yeah, I've been watching a little bit of that, yeah. And I think McNally's up right now, not by a lot, but what's her name? Sinema, is that her name?
Yes,
Sinema
with
made
an
some
S.
really kind of stupid remarks and
about women that stay home with their children, kind of thing.
Yeah, that and a number of other claims. I think that they've heard her quite a bit. So that one, although I don't think it's a secure Republican by any point in that respect, but I think the McNally, right, is the Republican could fairly easily
Martha
win that.
McNally.
Then, of course, then you had the McCaskill, Montana with Tester, North Dakota with, what's her name, Heidkamp. So you got 2 or 3 there that they've been counting on kind of picking up in any case. But it's possible the Democrats in Tennessee might pick up what was once a Republican seat. So I think the chances of the Republicans losing control of the Senate are very, very slim. But what we'd like to see them do is pick up 3 or 4 seats as well. And it's quite possible they'll do that. At the House, on the other hand, you see even people like Bernie Sanders saying, well, I don't know about a blue wave here. I think it's going to be very close, etc. And more and more you see Democrats saying this could be a very close election. In New York State, I think, again, these returns will come in fairly early for folks. And the Faso race, the Tenney race, and the Katko race, all of Republican incumbents, are pretty tight right now. But you see Katko, I think, beginning to build a little bit of edge. And I think Faso's candidate, the guy running against him, has made some pretty nasty comments, I think, about Israel, and he's had to retract them and such. So the Faso may well get the edge on that. The Tenney race, she always has tough races, and I think she's behind by 1 point or ahead by 1 point. It's very close.
A question about Brett Kavanaugh.
Yes.
He was a big motivating factor. The way he was treated for the conservatives and the accusations against him and the fact that he got in for the liberals.
Right.
That was a big motivating effect leading into the election, which is coming up Tuesday, November 6th.
I think so.
Is the effect wearing off with the distracting stories like the caravan and the explosive devices in the mail?
Well, I don't know. Again, who knows what these explosive devices are and what they're going to mean. But the caravan, I think, would simply support, generally, the people who were angry about the Kavanaugh treatment. So that, I think, in a sense, reinforces the conservative Republicans and the Trump base, so to speak, for the upcoming election. I think you have a point there. I think the unhappiness about the treatment of Kavanaugh is kind of beginning to mollify. But again, the advantage of Kavanaugh is it does show that the Supreme Court is very important, and electing Republicans to the Senate is very important to keeping the Supreme Court not only conservative, but making it more conservative.
Dr. Robert A. Heineman is our guest. I want to move into a few state races.
All right.
Those are big coming up.
Yes.
And I say state races. I wanted to start out with the federal government race, but it's in our state. Congressman Tom Reed.
Yes.
And his opponent, Democrat Tracy Matrano.
Yes. Yes.
Your thoughts there?
Well, I don't have any thoughts. I'm supporting Reed, of course, all the way. And I think, given his stand on issues, and I think his willingness to work with Democrats in the Problem Solvers Caucus.
Did you see Amo Houghton just came out for him with an endorsement because of that very factor?
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw where Amo endorsed him. But I think Higgins up in Buffalo has also been very supportive, and he's a Democratic congressman, of course, very supportive of Reed. So I think he has shown that he's willing to, to get issues on the agenda and work toward solving some of these issues, and doing it in a reasonably bipartisan fashion. So I think that'll help him quite a bit, frankly. But the other side of it is he's clearly spent a lot of time with his constituents. He's been at a huge number of town hall meetings. He hasn't been afraid to go head-to-head with these nutsos out there. So I think people respect that.
Reed and Senator O'Mara and Assemblyman Phil Palmisano put out a statement on Thursday afternoon saying they support Republican candidate for governor Marc Molinaro, and Molinaro's requesting the governor to get more debates in.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen.
No, I don't think so. Cuomo's pretty much saying no to everything at this point.
Yeah. He doesn't even answer reporters' questions, does he, at this point? I certainly wasn't.
He's not popular with the Albany reporters. Even the very liberal ones don't seem to like him.
Well, from what I heard of the debate there, when Cuomo was trying to push him, saying, do you endorse Donald Trump? Are you supporting Trump, whatever? Molinaro backed off of that a little bit. And I think, again, it's easy 20/20 hindsight to say if I were Molinaro, I think I could well have come back by saying, you don't support tax cut for the middle class. You don't support 3.7% unemployment. You don't support the lowest unemployment rates for African Americans and Hispanics since they've started keeping those records. You don't endorse the fact that the North Koreans and South Koreans are removing guards and mines from the 38th parallel. You don't support the fact that we've pulled out. I mean, why wouldn't you support Trump? If you don't support Trump, that's all right, Governor Cuomo. But let's be clear. All your hyperbolic statements there, and a lot of them are really totally off the mark. When Cuomo's going on and on about how he's held down state spending, you could point out that, the New York State still ranks as, I think, the heaviest tax state in the country, or the second heaviest. So I think Molinaro missed a few chances there. But again, I'm not sitting there.
Both of them looked a little visibly shaken by the other candidate shouting.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, watching it, both Molinaro and Cuomo looked a little bit. There were different times, like when Marc Molinaro went after Cuomo saying, you did legal work for Donald Trump when you were a lawyer working for your father, and Trump was making donations to Governor Mario Cuomo. And he said, you invited Donald Trump to your bachelor party, and Andrew Cuomo's jaw almost came down. And you saw the same kind of thing from Marc Molinaro, the same sort of facial expression when Cuomo was going off on Marc Molinaro for some accusation where Molinaro's wife gets a job or something. I don't know that story that well.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm not certain how substantive those kinds of comments are, whether Cuomo went to Trump's bachelor party. I don't know which bachelor party that would have been. I mean, I don't know what that has to do with anything, really. But, I guess try to score a point here. I thought, frankly, one of the most telling statements was when Molinaro said that Cuomo's attempts to create pouring money into job creation had ended up in more indictments than jobs. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it certainly ended up in a lot of indictments.
Chelsea Clinton's name is getting out there again, and we've got to talk about the Joe Arrigo Assembly. See, we're going to take a quick break. We'll talk about two topics.
Well, all right.
When we get back.
Sure, all right.
$20 certificates selling for $12, some for $10. $10 certificates selling for $6, some for $5. $15 certificates selling for $10. Just a sample of what you'll find in our ongoing certificate sale. Find all the details on our website, fun921.com, and click on Shop Certificate Auction Sales. Select the certificate you want, then choose to pay by credit card or cash in person. Then come up to our station on Ashbaugh Hill Road Monday through Friday between 10 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. to pick them up. Don't have a computer? Come up to our station and check out our list of certificates here. Here are some of the sponsors we have certificates for: Annie's Restaurant, BK's Boutique and Florist, Country Kitchen, Jody's Hair Design, Kimberly Glover, Forever Art Tattoo and Piercing, Nickel Brew, Supervac, Milner's Southern Smoke, Soho Clothing Exchange, and Yarn Over. And be sure and check back often because we're always adding new certificates.
Checking in now with the meteorologist, Rob Carolyn. How's the weekend looking?
Pretty crummy. How's your weekend looking?
I meant the weather.
Oh, that looks even worse. Doesn't look good, Brian. Unfortunately, we've got a very active weather pattern developing, and it starts this weekend, continues through next week and into next weekend, and probably the weekend after that as well. Usually, once we start getting into the mid and later portion of the fall, it starts getting progressively stormier. Atmosphere mixes up that cold air coming down from Canada with the warm air coming up from the Gulf, and got a big storm system that's going to develop off the North Carolina coast later today. It's actually coming out of the remnants of what was a hurricane in the East Pacific at this time last week. It's going to be a potent low. Fortunately for us, we're on the northwestern side of it, so the weather not as bad across the southern tier as it will be, say, in the Catskills or down towards the city and Long Island. Today, a lot of cloudiness. The clouds will continue to increase, thicken, and lower. We're 50 to 55. Sun up this morning at 7:37. It'll set tonight at 6:11. For tomorrow, we'll have clouds, and tonight, too. It looks like rain arrives as we go through the night. Breezy, chilly, 35 to 40. Rainy, windy at times tomorrow, temperatures around 45. The rain will taper off to scattered showers tomorrow night, breezy, 35 to 40. Showers Sunday, 45 to 50. Brian, I think our next chance at seeing some sunshine won't be until Tuesday of next week.
Dr. Bob.
Hello.
Let's do the Chelsea Clinton story first. Gannett Media got an exclusive with Chelsea Clinton putting her name out there saying she's considering running for office again.
Again? Has she run before?
Putting her name out there again.
Oh, yeah, okay.
She hasn't run before.
Right.
Granted, if you look at the whole nation, the nationwide voters seem to be tired of the dynasties. But would New York State be too tired to vote for a Clinton?
Well, it's hard to tell. New York State, you just shake your head at some of the people in New York State elects, and if you've got a base of all these people wandering around New York City and downstate counties, you can run almost anybody, I guess. Chelsea Clinton, I don't know. Who knows anything about Chelsea? In fact, Chelsea's the only Clinton I've actually met. She, when her father was first running, she came to Alfred and was over in the campus center and was trying to do her bit for her father. You know.
Did she say anything about the Newsmaker show?
No, I don't. That's been a long time ago, but I don't believe it was mentioned. No. But
that may be a good thing.
Yes, I'm not certain it's the top of their listening agenda, but yeah, I guess she's welcome to run. You shake your head, but who knows? Maybe she's cleverer and more persuasive than either her father or mother. I don't know.
One thing I really like her on is when she steps in and says, "Lay off the first family kids."
Yeah.
She said that about the Obama girls. She said that about Trump's kid, the 10-year-old boy.
Yeah, well, I think she's, that's certainly a relevant, constructive comment. But again, I think pushing Chelsea out there gives an indication how hard up the Democrats are for some kind of name recognition, solid candidate of some kind, and there's just not much out there. So we'll see who pops up here as a result of the coming election. Again, we'll just have to see how some of these House races break down. Another one we could look at, of course, and we'll go to, is the Collins race. And again, that would be an indication to us how many of the Trump supporters are going to turn out and how effective.
In terms of the Buffalo Chris Collins congressional seat.
Right,
excuse me.
Right. Give you some idea there.
Moving on to the topic of the Joe Arrigo Assembly seat. His name will be on the ballot. He's not really campaigning for it, is what Arnie Rothschild told me when I asked the question when the accusations came in against Arrigo from the feds. So the question there is Democrat Barbara Baer or Republican Marjorie Burns. That's an interesting race to watch.
Yeah. And again, I really don't have any grasp at all how grassroots Republicans are going to respond to that. I think they're kind of sick of the whole thing, and so I suppose you might get some of them voting for Baer, but I don't really see that much activity on Baer's part. If the Democrats want to pour some money in there, I think they could pull that out. But Burns has campaigned very hard, and is, in fact, has, I don't know, is she running some ads over this direction or not?
I haven't heard any.
Yeah. She certainly got yard signs and some big signs up and around, and she seems to be attending all the relevant Republican get-togethers of one sort or another. But again, I just don't sense any real enthusiasm for her. So it's very hard to see how that race is going to go.
I'm guessing you're following Senator Young for your state senate, and not so much the O'Mara, Senator Tom O'Mara, Amanda Kirskisner race.
Yeah, well, there's not much to follow on the Young side. She and Joe Giglio
rarely has an opponent.
Neither one of them have opponents, so neither one of them has an opponent. So she's, frankly, she looks a little tuckered out here and there, I must say.
Senator Young?
Yeah, she's working, to try to hold on to the state senate for the Republicans.
Yeah, how do you think that's going to play out?
I don't think it's going to play out too well, no. I think it's quite possible we're going to end up with Democrat Senate, Democrat Assembly, and a Democrat governor. And the first thing they'll do is, of course, legalize the sale of marijuana. Some of the things that be coming down the pike, I think it's not going to be good for those of us out here in Western New York. But if Cuomo maintains his margin downstate, it's going to be very hard for some of these incumbent Republican state senators to hang on. And I think Cuomo's, making a real effort to defeat some of them this time around. So it's tough. Now, again, you can't sell Kathy Young short. She is very good. So they may have something that I'll label them to hang on there. But right now their margin in the state Senate is 1 vote. So it's going
to be a close call.
I would think. Yeah, I
hope
the
GOP holds on to the majority there.
Yeah, right.
Well, Dr. Bob, we're just about out of time. Was there anything I did not bring up that you wanted to?
Well, I think in terms of, some of the things are going on. Trump, as you know, has been blasting the Federal Reserve for raising interest rates, and his argument is that tends to slow down the economy, and he's right. I have no idea why we need to be raising interest rates at this time. Obviously, I think it helps the banks and some of the big investors, but the whole idea is to keep the economy pumping along, and once you start making the cost of borrowing money greater, it does tend to slow things down a little bit. And there's no need to at this point. Now, obviously, we're in an inflationary situation, and slowing down investment and such might be a good idea. But I certainly think the president is right. Why the Federal Reserve thinks it needs to be pumping up. And, they haven't pumped up way up yet, but they seem to be on an upward scale here. That would be my thought on that point, Brian.
Birthday yesterday. Did we wish Paul Griffith a happy birthday?
Well, we probably should.
Happy birthday, Paul. Gotta fly. See you. Bye, Dr. Bob.